Pacers Hawks tonight in Indianapolis. Pacers begin their very long homestand with a game against their former head coach, the Atlanta Hawks, riding a hot streak right now. Going to be a fun game. Lots to get to on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to this Wednesday edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and the West Side Community News. And today, it's December. It's Wednesday. It's a new month for the Pacers. It's a new homestand for the Pacers, a chance for them to get back on track against the Atlanta Hawks. And that'll be a fun game to preview against one of the East surprising teams last year. They made it to the conference finals. And joining me to talk Hawks, to cover a team that reached the conference finals with Nate McMillan last year after the Pacers fired him due to playoff failure. Surprise, surprise. Mr. Andrew Kelly from Peachtree Hoops. Andrew, man, how's it going?
I'm good, Tony. Thanks for having me.
Excited to talk Hawks and excited to talk about Nate McMillan. And I want to actually, look, everyone who's going to ask you about the Hawks is going to say, I want to hear about Trae Young first, but I don't want to hear about Trae Young first. I want to hear about Nate McMillan first because last year when he took over, Lloyd Pierce, ironically with the Pacers now, they kept kind of doing some of what Pierce had already kind of established as the head coach of that team. There were changes, obviously. They got a lot better. But this time, Nate had a full offseason to implement what he wanted. The team looks a little different. How do you feel like Nate's doing this season? How has he made the Hawks in his image this year?
Yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it with the intro there. When Nate McMillan took over last year, he largely left in Lloyd Pierce's architecture in place, didn't really make big fundamental changes. He did some things a little bit differently, like he took maybe a little bit more democratic approach to the offense, making sure guys get their touches. They did more off-ball, particularly with Bogdanovic, who's a great off-ball player. But for the most part, they mainly kept the same structure offensively. But this year, they have moved to more of a traditional, like Nate McMillan type offense, slower pace. They shoot a lot of mid-range jumpers. They love mid-range jumpers. Try and get more isolation matchups that they can attack, mismatches, trying to attack the gaps. Not quite the same, spread pick and roll approach that you saw with like Lloyd Pierce. It's more of a true McMillan offense. But the results have been there too when you look at like the team's offensive rating. But they definitely have shifted more towards that style.
It's fascinating to see the Hawks third in offense with those changes, right? Like they're 20, like you look at their roster and they have a ton of good shooters. They take the 27th most threes. They play way slower than on a 21st in pace, despite having all these laser quick guards who can pass accurately and push in transition. And yet, like you said, their offense is awesome. They're third in offense because they have dudes who can score from everywhere and really bend a defense. And so the image McMillan wanted, it seems like fits very well with the way Trae Young is playing and the way this Hawks team is playing this year. It's very fascinating to see that play out. And something Nate always talked about, and he was the coach here in Indiana, was keeping turnovers down. Hawks very good at that. Now one of Trae Young's strengths in the past. So impressive work by him to implement a change system that is still working for this team. And how much did it, so this Hawks team, for those unaware, won 7 in a row, 6 in a row earlier this month after a pretty slow start.
Yeah.
You feel like
7.
the slow start for the Hawks was because they were changing systems? Was something else up with them early in the season? What kind of caused them to turn that corner?
I think a lot of it was just unsustainably poor play at the individual level. Like guys like Capella played well below his standard. Kevin Huerter, Gallinari, just like guys, if you look at like their true shooting percentages over that stretch, I mean, frequently they are like the low 50s. And this team really kind of goes as Capella does. If he's not playing well defensively, then they're just not very viable in that end at all. So over the last, 5 to 8 games or so, he started to look more like himself. I mean, last year he was an all defense caliber player. I mean, I think he was like top 5, at least for DPOY as far as like impact goes. So he started to look more like himself as the season has gone on, and they're responding like in turn. Kevin Huerter's also playing better too. Bogdanovic got hurt, but he was looking better as well. So you start to see guys coming to form. Also, their schedule eased up a lot. During that stretch of losses, I mean, they were playing like at Utah, at Phoenix. I mean, those are just tough spots when you're struggling at the individual level. But things are starting to kind of regress to the norms. So a lot of different factors, but mostly just guys playing better individually.
I believe I saw a graphic that had Kevin Huerter's stats as a starter this season, and they're like unbelievable. It's kind of crazy how much better it looks like he's been since moving into the starting five. And the Hawks are still super injured. Like I was just pulling up the injury report, and looks like Bogdanovich might not play. Cam Reddish is questionable. Like a lot of key guys are banged up for them. So it's going to be fascinating to see what group they put out, what guys can step up into big roles. But the front office in Atlanta built a deep team with a lot of talented players for this exact situation. I beat around the bush for 5 minutes. The best player on the Hawks is Trae Young. He is an absolute stud, lock all-star in the conference this year. Should have been one last year. It's a shame. 26-9, just ridiculous. Shooting 40% on 7 3-point attempts per game. Where has he taken a step forward from last year? How good has he been in running the Nate McMillan style? Because to insert myself here a little bit, when McMillan was the coach of the Pacers, all these point guards, Darren Collison, TJ McConnell, Malcolm Brogdon, even Oladipo at times, Corey Joseph, all said they really liked playing for Nate because he was a high-level point guard when he played, and that really spoke to them and helped them kind of play better. And I'm curious how that has kind of affected Trae in his play this season.
I think there's two key areas of improvement for Trae. Like you said earlier in the podcast, he's done a better job of not turning the ball over. So that's like a key area of improvement. And it just makes sense that you're going to have a better offense when you're not just giving the other team extra possessions. But one area that he really focused on in the offseason was just developing his mid-range game. He's always been, a lethal shooter lethal floater shooter, I should say. But he's really started to develop an elbow kind of jumper. And you're seeing that more this year, and that's been a big weapon for him. And he's been a lot more efficient from the field. He's always been some guy that's kind of relied on free throws to boost his efficiency. And this year, his free throw rate is way down. I mean, it's just like it's the lowest of his career. But yet he's still maintaining efficiency levels on par with last year, just because he's been so much better from the field. I mean, you mentioned he's shooting better from three, but he's been great from mid range as well. So I would say just, improvements from the field, sort of driven by his mid-range game, as well as just not turning the ball over.
Yeah, those will help. Guys always have this huge jump when the floater comes in, but Trae already had it. So adding that mid-ranger makes him so hard to guard. And he's always been impossible for this Pacers team to guard, especially in their current era. Like the guys Brogdon struggles with are the guys with really good lateral speed, and Trae Young can just cross over guys so fast. I mean, I think there was a game, I think it was 2 years ago in Indy, where the Pacers won by like 1 point in overtime, but Trae had like 50 points or something like that. Like
that was a crazy game. I remember that one.
That game was very ugly. I remember my exact tweet after that game was like, burn the tape and never speak of this game again, because it was really awful, despite the fact that the Pacers did win. But yeah, Trae is just really special, and I think him adding another area of scoring has been effective. But I kind of want to leap off of that to say, you mentioned the free throws being way down. There's a lot of hoopla about the rules. I don't think it's the rules. Is it just that he's taking the mid-rangers more instead of driving to the basket? Is he being defended differently? What's kind of caused, he's still been very good. I don't think that him shooting 3 less free throws per game is like some huge detriment to Atlanta, but what's kind of led to that change in his statistical profile?
Yeah, I really think it's just improved efficiency. I mean, he's having his best year from three as well. He's always been like not quite the shooter that his reputation has suggested. Like he has incredible range, but when you look at his percentages, they've always been kind of like, like not too special. But this year he's been really good from three, and he's been great from mid range. And you add those two together, and that can definitely compensate for not getting to the line as much. But yeah, I mean, if you look at most of the advanced stats, like my favorite is always going to be estimated plus minus. Like I get grief sometimes for just like loving it, but yeah, he's 10th in that last I looked. So he's just had a really impactful start to his season, coming off a really strong stretch of games over the last 5 games or so. He's had multiple 30-10 games. You can make it a strong case. This has really been his best start of his career. It probably is, even if the record hasn't quite been what the Hawks want.
Yeah, let's take a moment to shout out dunksandthrees.com for making a fantastic advanced stat. EPM is wonderful. Always use the advanced stat that best matches your eye test, and I think an advanced stat that has Jokic, Curry, Giannis as your top 3 players is doing a fantastic job of mirroring just that, at least for me.
Well said.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just agreeing with you. I think when they align with the eye test, that's generally when you can put more stock in it.
Agreed. People always ask what the best advanced stat is, and that is whatever you think the best advanced stat is, listener. So back to the Hawks, even though I love advanced stats and can do a whole podcast on just them. You mentioned Capella, and I heard a lot of stuff about his slow start and how his turnaround really helped the Hawks. His stats look fantastic. He is shooting ridiculously well around the basket. Again, after that slow start, his defense is so important for this team. And I think people kind of get why Capella is so awesome now, but can you kind of put into words or numbers how much he helped improve this team when he was added in with his defensive versatility? Because they never really had good rim protection prior to him coming. And do you feel like he was like the missing piece for them to go from where they were to the conference finals, or is he just like a cog in the machine that ended up getting there?
Yeah, last season he was their second best player. I mean, he was just incredible. He had probably the best defensive play of his career. I mean, he was really good. 2018 in Houston, he was more switchable back then. But with the Hawks, they've really kind of focused on keeping him around the basket. He's a very active shot contester. He's always near the top of the league as far as like contests at the rim, and he's above average at making guys miss. And he's a good organizer as well. He works well with guys. I mean, he's hurt right now, but like DeAndre Hunter, who's good at funneling to rim protectors. He's good at playing off of that. He's just very, very sound and a strong rim protector. And like you said, they didn't have that previously. I mean, they had guys like Alex Len, who's, a pretty good defender, but not on the Capella level. So him coming in, I mean, obviously he's a good dive man too on the offensive end. So he's a good fit for Trae there, but just getting his organization and his presence at the rim as a deterrent has been huge for the Hawks. And he's a tremendous floor raiser for them. And he works well with John Collins too, who's improved as a defender. Collins is a good, weak side kind of shot blocker. He makes good use of verticality as well. So when you have those two bigs inside, it just really raises the floor of their defense beyond what you would expect based on some of their personnel. I mean, I know the numbers aren't great right now, but if you go back to last year, they did punch above their weight, I think, relative to personnel. I mean, you have Trae Young out there, so you're just trying to get by for the most part. You're trying to win on the offensive end and not give back up too much on defense. But yeah, he's been a tremendous asset for them overall.
Hey guys, quick break here so I can tell you about two great groups of people. First up, the good folks over at Indeed, because while there's always going to be a debate between LeBron and Jordan when it comes to helping you hire all-star talent faster, the GOAT is Indeed. If you're hiring, you need Indeed. They're the hiring partner that gets you what you really want, a short list of quality candidates as fast as possible, because you can do it all. Attract, interview, and hire all at Indeed. Indeed is your go-to hiring partner where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. You don't struggle on your own to find quality candidates. Indeed can help you find the right people right now. They partner with you every step of the hiring process so you can find talent with the skills you need through tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. They make it easier for star applicants to shine with over 135 assessment tests. You can pick what skills are important to you from those tests to get your top candidates faster. And with those assessments, you can reduce your hiring time by 12% according to Indeed data worldwide. So get started right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your post at Indeed.com/locked, LOCKED. $75 job credit at Indeed.com/locked, Indeed.com/locked. Offer valid through December 31st. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Let's also talk about the good folks over at Built Bar, because Thanksgiving is unfortunately over, but you can still have a yummy dessert that isn't so full of calories and sugar with Built Bar, who are making the best tasting protein bars ever. It's a perfect time for them right now as you come off of your delicious feasting weekend. And you can still have delicious food without the calories. One slice of pie has 300 calories or more. Built Bars, way healthier, way fewer calories, and the same flavors. They have, you can have coconut Built Bar instead of coconut cream pie, raspberry Built Bar instead of raspberry pie, whatever you want to do. Low calorie, low carb, low fat, high protein, 100% covered in chocolate Built Bars. Listeners have always told me they love them, and they're a great option when you're healthy. They can be a meal replacement, a snack, whatever you want. You have to try them. So many great new flavors coming out all the time. Go to Built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your order of Built Bars. That promo code again, LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Capella being in his 8th season doesn't make sense to me. Like, I feel like he got drafted like 3 minutes ago. It's really wild.
We're getting old, man. That's what it is.
I don't like that. That is not the solution I wanted to hear for that. Yeah, he's only 1 year older than me, so I'm not that old, I guess. But yeah, certainly a huge boon, at least in my eyes, for this Hawks success. I mean, it's not a secret what happened to them in 2019-20 and what happened to them the following season after they got him, and he led the league in rebounding. Certainly a huge turnaround, and I think potentially has a case for the most underrated player in the NBA, although you could quibble with some guys here and there. The injury report for this game is crazy. Justin Holiday is now out. Former Hawk Justin Holiday. Health and safety protocols. He'll miss his first game in like 290 games. He has the longest active streak of games played in the NBA. That's a big loss for the Pacers. He's been starting and playing well on the wing.
He's a quality player.
the quintessential 3-and-D bench player, basically. And the Pacers have to start him because everybody's hurt. And Miles Turner's sick. He missed their last game. He's questionable. And on the Hawks side, Reddish is questionable. And Okongwu's out. And Jalen Johnson's in the G League. And my man Sharif Cooper, who I ranked as a top 10 prospect because apparently I'm a huge idiot, is in the G League as well. Bogdanovich is out. DeAndre Hunter's still out. Like, there's a lot of guys missing from this game that could change the way it's played. I just wish Sharif Cooper could be playing for the Hawks. But Justin Holiday is the big one that I wanted to insert because that's brand new for the Pacers. I don't know if many of my listeners know that he has been put into the health and safety protocols. No idea if he tested positive, he was a close contact, whatever the deal is, but it seems like he'll be out for a while, which hurts because the Hawks still, despite not having Bogdanovich and Hunter, have great wings. Herder's fantastic. Gallo is slow, but still an effective player. Lou Williams is a point guard, but still it's guarded by wings occasionally for them. DeLon Wright, maybe the most underrated defender on the perimeter in the NBA. Maybe I'm stretching too far here, but how much has depth helps this Hawks team this year as they battle through all these injuries? Because it seems like every time someone gets hurt, they're like, oh yeah, we have another very credible reserve we can just slap right in the game.
It's definitely helped, but I think really like the key part for the Hawks is that they play through Trae and their bigs offensively. Like they have a really good pick and roll with John Collins and Trae Young. Like that's one of the best offensive actions in basketball, just from an efficiency level. And they're good at involving Capella there as well. So they put a lot of pressure in the middle of the floor, just commanding defenses to address that action. And their wings can play more of like a complementary kind of role. So they're better able to survive injuries there. I mean, obviously you want to have your DeAndre Hunter and Bogdanovich and guys like that, but they really do serve more as a complementary pieces. They're secondary creators, they're good shooters, they're good ball movers. They're not, star scorers, like a Jaylen Brown or something like that, but they do their job for the most part. But really, they're just a team that has a really good guard and they have really good bigs, and that's a very effective recipe.
They have a lot of guys who can they can pass, shoot, and dribble, right? And that sounds so simple, but so many guys can't do all three. And when you can do all three, you're just such a threat every time you catch the ball. They can always keep it moving and humming, and it's very impressive to me. I've gassed up a lot of Hawks players because I've become quite the Hawks fan this season. They're very fun to watch. So what has the Hawks struggled with? What kind of player has non-star category, maybe even in the star category, whatever you want to say? What kind of prototype of player or what specific players have given the Hawks trouble this season? Do the Pacers have anyone who fits that billing?
I would say with Hunter out and Reddish, likely a game time decision. We're recording this Tuesday night, and he's a game time, I believe. But really, guys that can give them trouble at the point of attack. Like they don't have Hunter that they would like to use there. So good guards. Obviously, you have Trae Young there that they would prefer to try and shift him away from good guards. So that's really like the key area for them that they really can't defend. And obviously the wings now, just with the personnel they're missing, like potentially both Reddish and Hunter. Herder is a capable defender. He's a smart defender, but he's still giving up size to, like a Jason Tatum or someone like that. I mean, I know the Pacers don't have quite Jason Tatum, but they have TJ Warren. They could really be in trouble. But yeah, they're down their top two, potentially their top two wing defenders, and Hunter's the best guy they have at the point of attack too. So those are really two, key areas that they can get burned on. Overall, their perimeter defense just isn't very good. They have good interior defense with Collins and Capella, but their perimeter D is got to be one of the worst in the league right now. So plenty of guys can hurt them.
Yeah, Justin Holiday is not a great off the dribble player, but he's not playing, and Warren's out, and they don't have a lot of wings who can create off the bounce. So Keelan Martin has been dribbling more this season. I don't know if Hawks people even know who Keelan Martin is. He's been a deep reserve for the Pacers for a few seasons now. Maybe he could take advantage of that. Maybe Jeremy Lamb plays with Justin Holiday on the shelf. So some options of guys who could exploit that. I feel like, though, as I kind of think about the Hawks and think about the things you say they struggle at, it could be a big Karis LeVert game. If they have a team with poor perimeter defense and good rim protection, you're going to have to be able to score from 5 to 10 feet, make them come out a little farther as the bigs, or, make them close out better from deep. And LeVert really struggled against Minnesota. They lost by 2, and he was horrible scoring the ball, but he's rounded into form a little bit before that, prior to that, earlier this week. I feel like if he's a guy who can get scoring a little bit, get into the lane and kind of bend the Hawks defense, that could be someone that causes the Hawks to do some reflective defending or change the way they're trying to stop the Pacers. Do you feel like he's a big threat for this Hawks team, or is there someone else you have your eye on?
Yeah, I mean, LeVert's just, he's such a good dribbler. He's a good passer. He's definitely someone that could cause them a lot of pains. And their defense is just exploitable in the perimeter right now. I mean, If Reddish is out, we could see former Pacer Solomon Hill get the start. They just don't have like the bodies right now to really give like a lot of people trouble. So LeVert is definitely someone that could look to have a big game.
You told me when Solomon Hill was with the Pacers that he would have a very long career featuring several deep playoff runs. I would hit you like that. It's crazy how much he's improved
Yeah.
and found a way to be versatile his whole career.
It's also
going to the-
astonishing to think of like how much he's made too, like when you look at like,
Oh
I think
yeah,
he got like a $60 million deal or somewhere thereabouts for like a season where he maybe averaged like 7 points or something. He's a nice player, but it's still crazy to think back to that like summer of 2016, some of the deals that came out.
yes. Solomon Hill. I mean, basically his career earnings are he went 11 for 19 from three in the playoffs in 2015.
Yeah, he was good in that
The
series.
Pelicans were like, hey, maybe he's good. He's fine. He's definitely an NBA player. He's got size. He's a good wing. He's a great vet too. Like that's why good teams continue to sign him, and those teams continue to overachieve. Right? He definitely has a ton of value to a lot of teams. That just like, man, he was starting for the Hawks at the beginning of the year. He started in the playoffs only once this year actually. Last year he started at the beginning of the year. Started in the playoffs for the Hawks once last year. It's like Solomon Hill just keeps finding a way to be really useful. It blows my mind. We'll see if him and McMillan can link up again against the Pacers in this one. We talked about Capella already. I'm going to go back to him sort of because this is the case with Miles Turner where he is excellent at drop coverage and patrolling guards who get into the paint or weak drives or timid drives, whatever. But something he kind of struggles with is guarding centers specifically, like post-ups are not necessarily his strength defensively. How good is Capella at defending post-ups? And I asked that under the guise of maybe Turner doesn't play, and then Sabonis and Capella be going at each other all the time. Sabonis has not been posting up as much or back to the basketing as much, but he's still a creator in that mid-post often throughout games. How is Capella in defending in those situations, or can Domas actually be an advantage for the Pacers again, or against the Hawks for such a strong defender?
I think Capella is capable of the post. Really, the guy who just really gave him trouble last year was obviously Joel Embiid in the playoffs. But Embiid gives everybody trouble, so it's hard to really use that as like a mark against Capella. He's a sound post defender. I don't really think that he has any fundamental flaws with how he approaches it. But Sabonis is someone that it wouldn't surprise me if he had a good game there. I mean, Capella is really at his best, defending on drives and things like that. He's not really someone that I think you just like love defending in the post, but I don't really see that as being a weakness of his game either. But yeah, I mean, Sabonis has just been so good this year that I could definitely see him having a good game.
One more break, guys, so I can tell you about the good folks over at BetOnline.ag who have you covered all season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Football season is continuing. The march to the playoffs, basketball season, hockey, all in full swing, and BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the sports action. Head over to their new updated desktop or mobile website and sign up today. You can receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code LOCKEDON, all one word, when you sign up at BetOnline.ag. They got Hornets Bucks up there right now, and the Bucks favored by 7.5, but the Hornets are sneaky pesky. It's a very interesting one to think about. Basketball, football, NHL, boxing, UFC, your favorite Vegas casino games. Do not wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Who's the random guy on the Hawks who has like a streaky run every game? Is there anyone like that?
Cam Reddish.
That guy, Cam Reddish, is going to have a 15-point third quarter.
Yeah, he can be very hot and cold. I mean, again, he's a game time decision. He's not a lot to play, but yeah, he's somebody that can come out and make 5 of 5 from three, or he can go 0 of 5.
Outside of this game and Cam in particular, like Cam is one of the guys that always makes me think different about how I evaluate basketball and players because some of the stats like don't paint him super well, and like his rookie year kind of struggled, but like every pro or all these dudes who want to get him in high school and college are like, oh yeah, Cam's one of the toughest guys I've ever have to guard. And I'm like, shot 33%.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? So I always have to, it's really hard for me to marry up that in my head of like, what I think and what I see isn't awesome, but what other pros see, they're like, yeah, this dude's obviously great.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what am I missing? I still think Cam is definitely good. And remember that I think there was some Cam to the Pacers rumors this summer. I don't like talking about trade rumors.
Yeah, I remember that around draft time there was talk that the the Hawks could package him to move up or something along those lines, and it didn't materialize. But he's somebody that's he has a lot of like aesthetical factors like working towards, his perception. Like he's
Agreed.
a very fluid athlete. He's like 6'8" with a great wingspan. Like, he looks like physically like Paul George, and he has games where he's, extremely hot from deep. And he has like a spin move that he can go to in mid range that, kind of hits and misses. And if you catch him on the right nine, I mean, you can definitely, you might come away with the impression that he's like a future star. But, he's been a mixed bag. I mean, I think he's been better lately because he's been playing more like a role player rather than, somebody that comes in and immediately is trying to get his shots up. He doesn't have like a very good, assist kind of ratio. He's generally looking to shoot. But I think he's been in more control lately. And if he does get the start, that's what they'll be looking for with him and the rest of the starters is just, making his catch and shoot threes, not doing too much.
Yeah, he's already hit more threes than last season, which is, I mean, I only played a third of last season, but still pretty crazy in the totals department to think about that. I've always been a little fond of him, but mostly just because I think about him a lot, because there's a lot of players like that where I'm just like, what do I not see that pro players see? And I know that usually that's the case for guys like Jamal Crawford or Lou Williams, who like they fill up the scoring. Like, yeah, I get why other pros think they're good, but with a guy like Cam, I never really figured it out. But if he's hitting his threes and he's a good defender, that sort of changes this perception a lot. And after Anthony Edwards did what he did in the third quarter on Monday against the Pacers, where just he was awful the whole game, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, he just scored 12 points in 6 seconds. I kind of feel like Cam has that opportunity to be a big wake up call kind of guy for this Hawks team if this game kind of gets out of hand. So where do you feel like the Hawks will get their biggest advantage against the Pacers? Since they've been absolutely rolling outside of losing to the Knicks on a back-to-back after playing like a million games in a million nights, they've had this rest. Where are they going to get their big advantage in this one?
If they don't have Miles Turner, it's going to be tough for them in the pick and roll. I mean, I really just can't emphasize enough like how good John Collins and Trae Young are in the pick and roll. I mean, it really doesn't. It's almost independent of other teams' personnel. I mean, you see teams sort of sit on the lob more this year and try to make Trae score, which he's willing to do. And like I said, he's developed that mid range shot. He's become more efficient from the field this year. So I just think that that's their bread and butter on offense. If they don't have Turner, then that's going to be tough to defend that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And his absence was really felt against Minnesota too, when all of a sudden D'Angelo Russell's easily creating in the paint, and Cat had 32 points where he was just like, oh yeah, I'm really tall and I can just throw the ball over the top of guards and score. So if they don't have Turner again, Trae's going to tear them up. Like Trae might have 35 and 15. I think he had a game like that last year against this Pacers team. So Turner, go ahead.
I was gonna say it'll be tough. I mean, they're coming in with the top 5 offense, and Turner is just such a he's still like an underrated defender to me. Just at least as far as like public perception. I also think people just don't realize like that he's more mobile than I think people realize. He has pretty good agility. He's not just like this lumbering kind of like center type that sometimes I think he's sort of like characterized as. But yeah, he's such a good defender, and he was another guy that I thought deserved a Defensive Player of the Year consideration. I mean, I know he missed time last year, but if he's out, it's going to be a lot harder.
Yeah, it's always hard with those. You don't really realize what you have till it's gone with those rim protection guys, or the inverse is true. You don't realize how important it is till you have it. Like we talked about how Capella took the Hawks from not just Capella, a lot else changed for them, but going from very little rim protection to like, wow, Clint Capella is amazing was huge for the Hawks, right? And when Turner's absent, you always see those problems pop up for the Pacers again. Who was the starting center for the Hawks 2 seasons ago? I can't exactly. Jabari Parker started a few times. Dwayne Dedman, right? Who else was?
Yeah, they've had Damian Lee. I mean, they've had Alex Len. It's Dwayne Dedman.
Alex Len. How many teams are going to try Alex Len?
they had a kind of a carousel.
It's that kind of stuff that you don't realize the value of Turner until he's not there. And if he doesn't play against the Hawks, I think it will be on very high display how important he is. The crux of the question and the game. This is a big game for the Pacers, Andrew, because the Pacers just lost 2 in a row. One was to the Bucks, and then a back-to-back to Minnesota, who's over 500. Neither of those are bad losses, but this team's 9-14. So kind of a weird inflection point of the season where you kind of got to get a little burst going before things kind of fall out of hand. And they have a big home stretch coming up, starting with this Hawks game. 6 in a row at home. They're home for over 2 weeks. They haven't had consecutive games at home in forever. So prior to this weekend. So this is a big start of an opportunity for them. But the big question is, who's going to win this game? Who do you think is going to win this game?
Oh man, I mean, I'm coming from the Hawks side, so I gotta pick the Hawks, don't I? I mean, I think I have to. They've been playing better lately, but the Pacers are such a fascinating team because when you go through the stats and like you look at their net ratings, like, well, this team's pretty good actually. I mean, like at least on paper, like the numbers look good, but then you look at the record and it hasn't been there. When Carlisle got hired in the offseason, I just naturally gravitated to like their win total bet. I was like, well, that team is probably going to go over. And then, when TJ Warren had like the foot setback thing, it just kind of like affected how I perceive them. But they have a lot that I think that they can turn around. Like they have low hanging fruit to pick, I think. And I'll pick the Hawks in this one. I think I have to, or people will get mad at me on Twitter. But yeah, it's close. I mean, both teams I think are better than their records indicate.
The low-hanging fruit for the Pacers is win a close game. Win one close game. They've lost 7 games already this season by fewer than 5 points. It's ridiculous how bad they've been in these close games. I mean, that's the difference between 9-14 and like 12-11 or 11. Like a much more manageable record, and they just can't do it. So key for the Hawks, just keep it close. You'll win at the end of the game anyway. Objectively, the Hawks are better. I mean, no doubt to me. They found their footing. They won a bajillion games in a row. Their offense is amazing. I mean, even their net rating is very good. They're a good team. I like the way Nate McMillan coaches, unlike some Pacers fans. So I would pick the Hawks objectively. I think the Pacers do have a shot, and they have ways they can get an advantage, especially if everyone questionable for the Hawks ends up not playing. But they'll have the best player if Trae. I mean, obviously Trae's the best player. He's going to play. And if Turner doesn't play, they have the best player and the best defender in this game. I mean, that just seems like a recipe for success. I got to pick the Hawks as well, but the Pacers did beat the Hawks twice last year despite limping through turmoil all season long. So it is, they have matched up with the Hawks surprisingly well in the Trae Young career era, which has been surprising to me because he's the exact skill set that kind of tears them up. So
I remember one of the games last year too, like Sabonis was just making incredible shots too. He'll have those like games where he's just like outlier good at like shot making, and TJ McConnell gives them problems too. He's just like a good kind of probing guard. He's always kind of been a thorn in their side.
Yeah, it seems like every time I have someone on who covers their team, like, man, TJ McConnell's always so good against us. It's the funniest thing.
He's just so good at those little like 7-footers, where he just kind of probes around and gets that shot off. But yeah, he gives them problems.
How do I not remember this game? Sabonis had 30 points on 12 for 14.
Yeah, he was incredible in that game.
How do I not? That was May, so that was when every Pacers headline was just like Nate Bjork. So
yeah, and that was funny too because I think he was still the coach then, and that was like when you thought, okay, well Nate's going to come, in his job now as like his revenge game, and the Pacers pulled it out behind like incredible Sabonis shot making.
That is true. Well, I'm looking forward to this one. Andrew, where can people follow you and all your stuff?
You can follow me on Twitter, @Kelly, ANDLANKLL. I tweet about the Hawks and the NBA in general. I also live in downtown Indy too, so I try to like keep an eye on the Pacers. I'm a big TJ Warren fan. I love watching him, and I just like really hope that he gets back soon. He's always been a guy that I've seen as like somebody with like latent star potential. I don't think the bubble stuff he did. I mean, the shooting was unsustainable, but when you watch him in person, like he absolutely has like everything in his bag. So I just really hope that he can get healthy at some point.
I am also quite high on TJ Warren. I said before last season I thought he'd be the best player on the team, and he only played 4 games.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I mean, he just like he has been on the verge of the leap, but the injury stuff just hasn't worked out.
It is not. I am very hopeful that I get to see him play at full strength this year because he's one of my favorite players to watch, maybe ever. I mean, I just like the guys who don't talk. Like his media sessions are very short and he's very brief. He just loves to play and like kick the dude across from him's ass. Like that's his thing. I love that. So I can't wait to see him play. I hope he can come back in a month or so and look great for this team. But in the meantime, Pacers Hawks tonight. Follow Andrew on Twitter. This podcast is on Twitter @LockedOnPacers and me @TEastNBA. Tomorrow we will be breaking down the Nate McMillan against the Pacers Bowl. Again, should be really fun. Hope you guys can make it. Have a great day, and we'll see you then.